Hi everyone, is my voice audible?
Yes, hi.
Okay, so yesterday we have completed our module number 4 that is related to 6 knowledge areas, and today we are going to see with one more important module, that is module number 5, requirements. So in this module I am going to cover what is a requirement, then what are the different types of requirements, then I will explain how to categorize requirements and how to identify whether a requirement is a good requirement or not, like what are the parameters of a good requirement. Then after that, we will see what are the different stages in requirement gathering and what are the challenges and mistakes that are associated with requirement gathering. Okay, these are the topics that will be there in module number 5. Now coming to requirement, so can anyone say what is the general meaning for requirement? What do you understand by the term requirement in general? Any guesses? Yes, guys. What do you mean by a requirement? Any answers? Abhishek, Heming?
Yeah, so requirement basically is that something that must be obvious, that must be fulfilled, like must be a need.
Okay. Okay. So requirement is nothing but it's a mandatory thing which we need to do to complete a particular task or a objective. For example, assume that your objective is to get a job as a BA. So to achieve your objective, you need to fulfill some requirements. What are those means? Now, first requirement is to take a BA training. Then second requirement is after completing, you have to prepare your resume. Then third requirement is you have to post your resume in job portals. Then fifth requirement is you have to attend to interviews. So in this way, to achieve some objective, there will be some requirements which are mandatory things which we need to do. Okay. In the same way, for implementation or development of a project also, there will be different requirements which we need to complete. Okay. So here the IT industry has given 3 different types of definitions for requirement. So what are those means? The first one is like the condition or capability of the system that must conform to. That means whatever the system we are developing, that system should be in such a condition or it should have that much capable to accept our request and give response to that request. That is nothing but a requirement. Now second definition is the condition or capability that is required for a stakeholder to achieve an objective or to solve a problem. That means the system which we are developing should be in such a condition or it should have that much capability to accept whatever the request that is given by the stakeholders, and it has to solve the objectives or the problems of the stakeholder. Okay. Then third one is the condition or capability of the system and its components. Okay. To solve a particular problem. Uh, sorry. So the condition or capability of the system and components to satisfy a particular contract or a standard or a specification or a formally imposed document. That means we are going to keep this list of requirements in a particular document or in a particular contract which we are going to have from the client. So the system and its components should be in such a condition or they must be capable to solve this particular document or this particular specification. So those are nothing but requirements. Okay. So these are the 3 different definitions that are given for requirements. Then coming to types of requirements, we have 4 different types of requirements. What are those means? The first one is business requirement. Second one is user or stakeholder requirements. In this again we are going to have functional requirements and non-functional requirements. Third one is solution requirements, and fourth one is transition requirements. So once if you are placed in a project after taking this training, so you are going to deal with all these requirements in a project. Okay. And it is not mandatory that in a particular project we need to have all this. So one project may contain 2 or 3 types among this, and another project may contain another requirements. Okay. Now let me explain about all these requirements in detail. So the first one is business requirement. So business requirements are nothing but high level requirements. Okay. So business requirements explains the objectives, goals. Okay. And the goals, objectives of a particular business. Okay. So it means it explains why we are implementing this project. What is the mission? What is the objective of the organization? What is the metrics that we have to use to measure the success of this project? Okay. So it explains only the requirements that are required by the business, not by a stakeholder or a list of stakeholders. That means the requirements that are demanded by the business or that are demanded by a particular process. Those are nothing but business requirements, and these requirements are designed and developed by doing enterprise analysis. So when I explained about enterprise analysis, I clearly specified that by doing enterprise analysis, we can identify business requirements and we can document business requirements. Okay. Now, let me give example of business requirements. Assume that there is a startup company which has started its operations before 1 week. So it started this company with 15 employees. Now, how the HR department paying wages to these 15 employees means through manual process. That means they are calculating the wages of each and every employee in Excel sheet, in separate Excel sheets for each and every employee, and they are paying wages. Now, this company is performing well. So within a span of time, within a span of 6 months, they have increased their employee strength from 15 to 150. Now, when the employee strength increased to 150, the HR department is facing a problem to calculate the wages manually. Why? Because before that it was only 15 employees. They used to do easily, but to calculate the wages of 150 employees through manually, it is not a easy task. So they are wasting time throughout the month. They are keeping on doing this work only. Okay. Now management had a meeting related to this, and they decided to implement a automatic payroll system. Okay. So they decided to implement an automatic payroll system, and what this payroll system has to do means at the last working day of the month, it has to automatically calculate the wages of each and every employee, and it has to save in separate folder. So implementing this automatic payroll system is nothing but business requirement. Here, your company is demanding, so it will indirectly indicate you in case if you are going to follow same old process, you can't achieve your target, or you are going to face problems, or it is the time to change your process. Okay. So your company is demanding you to go through other process. You can't go through manual process. So that's the reason automatic payroll system implementation is nothing but business requirement. The requirements that are demanded by the business. Second example is, assume that you are running a supermarket. You have opened a supermarket in US. How the process going is, the customers are walking into your supermarket. They are picking the products, whatever they want. They are coming to the billing desk to pay the bill. Now you are sitting at the billing desk. So what you are doing is, you are taking each and every product, whatever the customer has taken, you are seeing the MRP and you are putting on the calculator and doing billing. So this is the process you are following, manual process. Now, as days are passing on, your supermarket business started increasing rapidly. That means the count of customers walking into your supermarket has been increased rapidly. When your business increased rapidly, you identified some problem during billing. That means you have identified many customers standing in the queue at the billing counter because you are doing billing through manual process. Like for each and every customer, whatever the products he has taken, you are taking each and every product, uh, uh, seeing the MRP and putting on the calculator. So this process is killing the time. Okay. Now by seeing this, you got an idea to implement a automatic billing system for your supermarket. So implementing this automatic billing system is nothing but business requirement. So here your business is saying indirectly that you are going to face problems in case if you are going to use same old system. So you need to change your system. You need to enhance your system. So that is nothing but business requirement. Okay. Then second one is user requirement or stakeholder requirement. So these requirements explains the goals, objectives, and mission of a stakeholder or a group of stakeholders. So what exactly the stakeholder required or what exactly the group of stakeholders required. So that will be explained by user requirements or stakeholder requirements. So generally these requirements are going to act as a bridge between the business requirements and the solution requirements. So these requirements are designed and developed by doing enterprise requirement analysis. Okay. So here, if I want to say the examples for stakeholder or user requirements, I will take the same example, that is implementation of automatic payroll system. So here why we are implementing automatic payroll system? Because the HR department is facing problems in calculating the wages manually. So what automatic payroll system has to do? So it has to calculate the wages automatically on the last working day of the month. So here the HR department will become stakeholder. So what is the requirement means? The system has to calculate the wages automatically on the last working day of the month. Okay. Then second one is employee is there. So what employee want from this automatic payroll system means, in case if he is giving from and to date. Okay. So the system has to calculate his attendance. System has to show his attendance. For example, if employee is giving from date as March 1st and to date as March 10th and click on OK. So the system has to show, okay, on March 1st when he logged in and when he logged out. On March 2nd, suppose if he logged in 9:30 a.m. and logged out at 6:30 p.m. and March 3rd, let us say that it is a Saturday, so weekly off. On March 4th, it is Sunday, so weekly off. In this way, it has to show. That is the requirement of the employee. Now, employee is going to become one stakeholder, and his requirement is to show attendance status. Now, third user is employer. Employer is there. So, what is requirement is, in case if you give the employee ID and click on get details, the system has to get the details. Like it has to show the employee name, date of joining, his date of birth, his address, his qualification, and then his work experience, and what is his designation, when he joined in the company, and what kind of roles and responsibilities we have given. So all these details the system has to show. So with the help of these details, the employer will give promotions and hikes. So this is employer requirement. So employer will become another stakeholder, and this is his requirement. So in this way, in the project, we are going to identify the stakeholders and we will take the requirements of those stakeholders. Those are nothing but user requirements or stakeholders requirements. Okay. So here we have functional and non-functional. So functional requirements are nothing but it explains how the system is going to behave in terms of operations and behavior, in terms of operations and management. Okay. So these requirements are directly related with the functionality of the system. Okay. That means it explains how the functionality should be done. For example, as I said, like if the employee want to get data, if he's going to give from and to date. So that is nothing but we are going to convert the user requirements, stakeholders requirements into functionality and explain to the developer. Okay. Then non-functional requirements are not directly related with the functionality, but indirectly they will help to achieve the functionality of the system. So generally, non-functional requirements are also known as technical requirements, quality requirements, or supplementary requirements. So these non-functional requirements includes configuration, what are the technical properties that should be there, what are the software properties that should be there, like we will include security requirements, maintenance requirements, performance requirements, cost requirements. So all this comes under non-functional requirements. Okay. For example, if there is a functionality called as print the receipt, then if you want to explain that in a functional way, we are going to explain once the billing has been calculated. If you click on print option, the system has to print the receipt. So this is functional requirement. Now non-functional requirement is something to print the receipt. You need to have a printer and how that printer should be there. What are the properties like to connect to the printer, whether the system should have 520 GB hard disk or 4 MB RAM. So what are the properties that will be explained in non-functional requirements. Okay. Then third one is solution requirements. So this solution requirements explains the characteristics what a solution should contain. Okay. So it explains the characteristics what a solution should contain if you are going to give a solution. So always the solution requirement should meet both user requirement and business requirement. Then only we are going to call it as a solution requirement. And depending upon the solutions you are providing, it is divided into subcategories. Okay. So this solution requirement is designed and developed by doing a requirement analysis only. Okay. For example, now our business requirement is to develop a automatic payroll system, and the user requirement is the system has to calculate the wages on the last working day of the month. Now the developer is going to develop the application in such a way that whenever the system is going to show that this is the last working day of the month, the system automatically calculates the wages and put it in some separate folder. Now what is happening here? Two things are fulfilling. One is business requirement. Business requirement is to have a application. So the developer has developed the application, and user requirement is the system has to automatically calculate the wages. Now this whatever the application that is developed, it is automatically calculating the wages on the last working day of the month, and it is keeping in some separate folder. So solution requirement has to meet both business requirements and user requirements. Then only we are going to call that as a solution requirement. That means for business requirement and user requirements, how we are developing this system. That is nothing but solution requirement. Okay. Then the final one is transition requirement. So transition requirement facilitates the transfer from the current state to the future state. Okay. So these requirements explains how we are going to transfer the requirements from the current state to the future state. Okay. So these requirements are temporary in nature. Okay. And these are developed and designed by doing solution assessment and management. Okay. So generally, what a transition requirement means, transferring the paper data into electronic form. That means once if you develop the system, that is automatic payroll system. So when you want to use that system, first you have to input all the details of 150 employees into that system. Then only the system is going to calculate the wages. So for the first time, whenever you use this automatic payroll system, you have to transfer whatever the data that is there in the Excel sheet for related to 150 employees. It has to be transferred to the system. That means we have to dump the data in the system. So what we are going to do? So you are going to have options in the system like upload data. If you click on that, then it will ask from where we need to upload. So you have to give the path wherever you have saved the Excel sheet. So if you give the path, then if you click on upload, then it will upload whatever the data that is there in the Excel sheet. It will be transferred to the system. So that is nothing but transferring the data from paper data to electronic form. So once the entire details are uploaded in the system, then the system starts functioning. And this we are going to do only for first time. So from next month already the data will be there and the system is going to calculate the wages automatically. So that's why this is temporary in nature. Okay. So this upload data is nothing but a transition requirement. So it is allowing us to transfer from paper data to electronic form. So in some softwares, in some applications, you will find like spool data. This option will be there, spool report. If you click that, then it will ask the path. Then once you give that path, then it will spool the information from that particular file to here. That is nothing but transition requirement. Okay. So these are the 4 different types of requirements we are going to use in our projects. Okay. So just go to the notes once. After that, I will explain some more things.
Done. Done. Done.
Done.
Done.
So now we have seen what is the requirement and what are the different types of requirements. Now let me explain how to categorize the requirements. So we are going to categorize into three types. What are those means? Essential or core requirements, then desirable or beneficial requirements, and optional requirements. So let me explain all this. So the first one is essential or core requirement. That means the requirements which fall under this category are essential, are core, are mandatory. That means you have to give these requirements in order to go forward in your workflow. In case if you are not going to give these requirements, the system will not allow you to go forward in your work process. So those kind of requirements are nothing but essential or core requirements. Okay. For example, assume that you are filling a application form online. So in that you will find different fields like your name, your address, your date of birth, your mobile number, all this. Now if you see some fields, you are going to have some star mark, which means that it is mandatory. For example, if you take name field, above that you will have a star mark. That means you have to give your name mandatory. In case if you are not giving your name, if you are going to next field, say your address. So if you click on that, the system will not allow you to write your address. It will give a error saying that your name field is empty. Please input a value. So unless and until you put a value over there, you can't go forward. So those are nothing but essential or core requirements. Another example is login functionality. Suppose if you want to check what are the mails you got in your Gmail account. So you have to give your user ID and password and get into login. So to get login, you have to give your user ID. So directly if you give password, it won't allow. So these are mandatory things that are nothing but essential or core requirements without which you can't go forward in your workflow. Okay. Then second one is desirable or beneficial. So the requirements which fall under this category are desirable or beneficial. That means if you give these requirements, the system is going to enhance the functionality, or the system will show the results very quickly. It does not mean that if you are not going to give these requirements, the system is not going to function. If you don't give these requirements also, the system will function, but you will get the result very slowly. For example, now you want to identify the list of BA trainers in Fremont City in California. Okay. Now what you will do, you will open Google website, you will start searching. So in the first scenario, how you will give your search means, you will give list of BA trainers in US. Then the Google is going to give you 500 results. Okay. Now you don't have that much of time to go through all those 500 results. So in the second instance, you are going to modify your search. How you will give means the list of BA trainers in California in US. Then Google is going to give 200 results. So whatever the 200 results you are getting here, already that are included in 500 results. But you are giving a desirable word, California. So based on that, the Google is doing search. So that's the reason your results are decreased. Now still you don't have a time to go through all these 200 results. Again you are going to modify your search by saying the list of BA trainers in Fremont City in California state in US. Then Google is going to give 15 or 20 results. Okay. So whatever the 15 or 20 results you are getting, these are already included in 200 results. And whatever the 200 that is included in 200 results, already included in 500 results. So if you are giving a desirable word, so the system performance is increasing. That means you are getting the result as soon as possible. So just assume if you want to search all these 500 results, how much time it takes. If you are going to search these 15 results, how much time it takes. So that is nothing but desirable or beneficial requirements. Okay. Then third one is optional. So the requirements which comes under this category are optional. That means if you want to give these requirements, you can give. Or if you don't want to give, it's your wish. But it is not going to show any impact on the process. If you give also, the system is going to perform in the same way. If you don't give also, the system is going to perform in the same way. Then you might get a doubt like why to have optional requirements then. So it purely depends upon the client's decision and cost and benefit analysis. For example, the client is going to say, so in my application form, I want mobile number 2. Okay. So mobile number 1 is mandatory and I want to keep mobile number 2. Are you going to charge anything? Then if the IT team says that no, we are not going to charge anything, so we can do on free of cost. Then client think, okay, I will ask this to keep it as an optional and in future if I require, I am going to use. Then the client says, okay, keep mobile number 2 as optional. So if the IT company says that, okay, we are going to charge $100 more to develop this requirement, then the client will think, so why to put unnecessarily $100 on this? In case in future, if I know, if I need this, I will go for the enhancement. Then he will say, okay, I don't require mobile number 2. So in this way, we are going to categorize the requirements. Okay. Now you have seen requirements, types of requirements and how to categorize. Then how to identify whether the requirement is a good requirement or not. So for this, we have some parameters. If each and every requirement is going to satisfy these parameters or characteristics, then we will say it has a good requirement, or else we will say it has a bad requirement. So what are those parameters means? Each and every requirement has to satisfy these 8 parameters: verifiable, clear and concise, complete, consistent, traceable, viewable, necessary, implementation free. Okay. So again, these characteristics are going to change depend upon project to project. So these are some 8 characteristics related to project. Now, if you are taking some other project, based on that, the characteristics may change. Okay. So, but there are some parameters or characteristics standard parameters. So for your easy reference, I have given a short form for those parameters. Those are nothing but 3CTV-PU. Okay, just remember this 3CTV-PU. 3C stands for, first C stands for clear, second C stands for complete, and third C stands for consistent. T stands for traceable, V stands for verifiable, P stands for periodization, and U stands for uniquely identifiable. Okay, so these are the parameters. If each and every requirement is going to satisfy these parameters, then we will say as a good requirement. If any one parameter is not getting satisfied, then we will say it as a bad requirement, and we are not going to take that into consideration. Okay, so let me explain these parameters. First one is clear. So whenever you are gathering requirements, ensure that the requirement is very clear and crystal. It should not confuse the developer or the tester. In case if you are going to gather a requirement which is going to confuse, then the developer may develop a wrong code. Okay. Then second one is complete. So always we have to give completed requirements for the development. So if you give incomplete requirements, what happens means the system is going to perform for certain time, and after that it starts giving bugs. So when you analyze why the system is giving bugs, then you will come to know that you have given incomplete requirement, which leads to project failure. Okay. Then third one is consistency. Consistency means whenever you are gathering requirement, you have to ensure that you are going to get benefits from that requirements for longer period. Okay, so we should not keep on changing the requirements. If you keep on changing the requirements continuously, it will damage the quality of the project. So while gathering only, you have to take care that this requirement is going to use for long run. That is nothing but consistency. Then traceable in the sense each and every requirement whatever we are giving, it should have some importance. Okay, so the developer or tester should be easily able to trace that requirement. Okay, and verifiable. So once we are keeping that requirement in the development process, we need to verify whether it is going to solve the objectives or problems of the client or not. That means we have to validate that. Okay, then prioritization. So I explained how to prioritize. We are going to prioritize in three categories depending upon the importance of the requirement, whether it is essential or whether it is desirable or whether it is optional. Okay. Then next one is uniquely identifiable. Uniquely identifiable means here we are going to give a unique number to each and every requirement so that in future we can identify the requirements very easily. Okay. So these are the different parameters which we are going to use to identify if the requirement is a good requirement or not. Okay. So just go through the notes once.
Done.
Done.
Done. Done.
Okay. Now we will see what are the different phases in requirement gathering. So I already explained what is requirement gathering. It is nothing but the art of digging up the information or pulling the information or putting the information together. And we are going to pull this information from different stakeholders. It could be users or vendors or stakeholders or internal stakeholders or external stakeholders. And whatever the requirements we are going to gather, it could be a user requirement or a solution requirement or a business requirement. Okay. So here, while doing requirement gathering, we have some phases. Those like we have 4 phases. We can say it as phase or stage. So what are those means? The first one is planning stage, second one is conducting, and third one is clarifying, and fourth one is concluding. So planning stage means here we are going to set up an agenda. That means this will be the first stage. So in this stage, first we are going to identify the correct stakeholders for our project. After identifying the correct stakeholders, then we will start. Okay. So we will send a SMS or email to those stakeholders saying that we are starting requirement gathering process. So you need to be here. Then we will send all details like place, time, date on which day they have to be available. So that is nothing but planning stage. Then second one is conducting stage. So in this stage, we will explain what is the reason why we are conducting this requirement gathering, on what topic we have to discuss, who has to discuss, how much time they have to discuss, and who is not authorized to discuss. So all this we will explain. So here the BA is going to extend his cooperation to make the conducting stage successful. Okay. Then third one is clarifying stage. So in this stage, whatever the requirements we have gathered in conducting stage, we are going to get clarification on that. That means we will check whether these requirements are correct and complete or not. So once we check, then we will go forward confidently. So if once we check whether those requirements are correct or complete or not, then we will go forward with confidence. Okay. Then we will take the clarification by showing these requirements to our reporting authority. So they are going to review and they will give you the feedback. Okay. Then final one is concluding stage. So in concluding stage, we are going to show these requirements. Whatever the requirements we have got clarified, we are going to document those requirements and we will show to the client representative. It could be client manager or it could be client SME. So we will show to them and they are going to review and they are going to give sign off on this requirement documentation. Okay. These are the 4 stages which will be there in requirement gathering sessions. And we have seen different requirement gathering sessions yesterday. So out of these 4 stages, stage 1, stage 3, stage 4 will be constant for each and every technique. We have seen yesterday different techniques, nearly 10 techniques. So stage 1, stage 3, stage 4 will be constant for each and every technique. Only the stage 2 differs. For example, if you are using brainstorming, so conducting stage will be different. If you are using document analysis, conducting stage will be different. If you are using prototyping, conducting stage will be different. But planning, clarifying and concluding will be same. Okay. So this is about the different stages in requirement gathering. Now, what are the mistakes and challenges that are associated with requirement gathering? Okay. So related to challenges, I have already explained in module number 1. That is why the stakeholders are not going to cooperate with the BAs. So those are nothing but challenges. For your reference, I'm going to explain once again. So these are the challenges. The first one is lack of knowledge. So in case if the stakeholder is not having any knowledge on the information what we required, so he won't say directly to us that he don't know anything because it's a prestigious issue for him. Okay. So in spite of that, he won't cooperate with us. So whenever we call, he won't pick the call. Whenever we keep message, he won't respond. And if you go directly to him, he will say, I am busy, you come later. If we expect this kind of response from them, it means that he does not have knowledge. Okay. Then second one is conflict among the stakeholder ideas. Now suppose if you want to gather some information from group of stakeholders, it is going to create conflict. How in the sense, first you will go to one stakeholder, you will take information and after that if you go to second stakeholder, the first stakeholder will think, okay, this guy is taking information from me and is exposing all my information to others. So in this way, it will become conflict. That's the reason the stakeholders won't cooperate. Okay. Then third one is do not want any changes to be made. So there will be some stakeholders in the projects who don't want to make any kind of changes. For example, if you take stakeholders who are working with the same company since from 10 or 15 years, so they will be treated as senior people. So these people, what they think is they don't want to make any changes. Why? Because they are pointed with the existing process. So they are the leaders. They know each and everything in the existing process. Okay. So they will think in case if you are going to make any changes, they will lose. They will lose that whatever the knowledge they have. Okay. Then fourth one is missing core prominence. So as I said, there will be some stakeholders who don't want any changes. So what they will think is, in case if you are going to cooperate BA, so the BA is going to develop a project with latest technology. So when project is developed with latest technology, then these senior people won't have that much of grip on that project. Then what the management will do? So management will listen to the BAs, not to the senior people, because they don't have that much of knowledge on the new technology. So the senior people will think, okay, we are missing the core prominence. The BA is dominating us. So that's the reason they won't cooperate with the BAs. And fifth one is technology domination. So technology domination means, as I said, in case if you are going to cooperate with BA, is going to develop the project with latest technology. So in latest technology, what happens? Mostly everything will be automated. So there will be a minimum use of human resources. So everything will be taken care by system. So at that time, what the management will think? So they will think, why to keep this many of human resources for this process? So they will try to terminate or they will try to remove some employees. So keeping in this mind, the people, the stakeholders won't cooperate with the BAs. Okay. Then sixth one is stakeholders are busy and unable to dedicate quality time. So there will be some stakeholders who will be very busy, who have knowledge. If you keep on chasing them, they will think that okay, this guy is making a follow-ups daily. So one fine day he will give some time, like 15 or 20 minutes, and he will say, okay, this is the information I know. But he knows complete, but he don't have time. So he will give some information and he will go away. So these are the different challenges that will be there while gathering requirements. Then coming to mistakes, exurban nature of BA. So what is exurban nature means? You should not confuse the stakeholder. So whenever you are gathering requirements with a stakeholder, so you have to explain what you want and you have to take that information only. So if you explain the complete project to the stakeholder, he will get confused what to give, what not to give. That is nothing but exurban nature. Then second one is poor listening skills. So if a BA have poor listening skills, then it will be a problem. So it is mandatory to have good listening skills because the BA has to carefully listen to the requirements and then he has to document those requirements and give the documentation for the development. So that's the reason you need to have good listening skills. Then third one is poor documentation. Even though if you have good listening skills, but if you are unable to keep them in a proper documentation, then also it creates problem. Why? Because the developers are going to develop the requirements based on the documentation. So if you give wrong information in the documentation, they are going to develop in a wrong way. Okay. Then fourth one is capturing incomplete and incorrect requirements. As I said you earlier, always we have to give correct and complete requirements. In case if you are going to give incorrect and incomplete requirements, then it is going to create a problem. Okay. Then wrong interpretation by BA. So a BA should not imagine. Wrong interpretation in the sense a BA should not think that he knows everything and he only correct. So whatever he knows, he have to keep, he have to share with the team. Okay. And you have to take their confirmation also. Then sixth one is BA should not imagine anything. So BA should not imagine anything. That means the BA should not think that all the stakeholders are going to think in a same way. So the thinking capacity will be different from one stakeholder to another stakeholder. For example, if I am explaining these concepts, so each student will have different thinking way, different understanding way. Some people are going to understand with my explanation. Some people are going to understand with the help of PPTs. Some people are going to understand once they listen to the recording and go through the notes. So in this way, the stakeholders thinking will also be different. We should not imagine that each and everyone is going to think in the same way. Okay. So these are the mistakes that are associated with requirement gathering. So this is about requirements. Okay. So I have covered each and everything. I have explained what is a requirement, what are the different types, then how to categorize the requirements, then how to identify if the requirement is a good requirement or not, then what are the different stages that will be there in requirement gathering, then what are the challenges and mistakes that are associated with requirement gathering. Okay, so just go to the notes once.
Done.
Done.
Done. Done.
Done.
So this is all about requirements. So I will be sharing the recording video and soft copy of notes. You can get it. Then in next week, we will start with documentation. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.